out there in the marketplace, there's enough training about strategic growth strategy, what works, how to organize, manage things, you name it. But when it comes to business and when it comes to what we do on a daily basis with our health, with our finances, with our life, with our businesses, creativity is important. And yet it's one of the most overlooked areas in culture, especially in the United States, for people that are successful. For what you hear, like when you're being taught how to be successful, what it takes to be successful, techniques for success, it's not pressed into enough, I believe, how to cultivate creativity and creatively inspire yourself. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is you have a goal, a vision, and there's so much out there on how to come up with 5 million ways to reach that goal and vision, and yet that's so linear, that's so one-sided. The other side of this is in business with our goals, there's creativity involved in creating our outcome, creating our goal, and yet there's not enough training out there to learn and cultivate how to creatively inspire yourself, to creatively pull out of you the best of what's inside of you. And in fact, it's actually pushed down, and it's even talked badly against as one of those things that those creatives do over there. And yet we're missing the number one thing that creates success. To create success, you have to creatively create something and be creative. And yet so often that's not the focus. The focus is the structure. The focus is the order, the box that business is in, the box that keeps people held back. But what has to happen is equally, I'm not knocking the order. I'm not knocking the strategy. I'm not knocking any of that. There's so much great stuff out there. But there needs to be more of what creatively inspires you, what cultivates creativity in you, what pulls out of you the best that's in you to give out to the world, what generates creative thought and energy that then can be taken. You have the ether of the creative thought, the ideation, the energy, and then now that can be fit into a structure of how do we execute. You cannot have one or the other. I've seen so often conversations where people say it's either one or the other. And many times people don't think in both realms of that. And so what will happen is in organizations, when you have employees, you'll have the structure people and you'll have the creative people. And many times they will not get along because they talk two different languages. And so what I want to do is open up your mind to the possibility of the fact that actually structure, what created structure and order always every single time started with creativity. What creates action, what creates results always started with a creative thought of I want to create this, and then the structure and order goes into place. And yet we're elevating the structure and the order way above the creative energy. Now, if you spend your time only in the creative energy, only in the dream stage, it literally goes nowhere. Nothing is created. It's just flat. It's just an idea. It's dead. Truly, it is. And so you have to put the creative energy into action. And so I want to inspire you, if you're the structure, the order person, the action taker, and you're like, I don't want to hear about this hippie creative stuff that you're talking about. Talk about the real meat and potatoes that actually makes money. That's great. You know what's going to make you more money is to creatively cultivate creative energy, to come up with creative new ways to do the structure and to do the order that no one else has done before, which will rapidly accelerate the results. Now, if you're a creative and you're just like, oh, structure and order it just kills my creativity, and I don't feel like myself when I have to go into structure and order. If you spend your whole time just in the creative mode, nothing is produced. So it's time to take a leap of faith, to create something, to take an action, to do something, to put one foot in front of the other. And if we can work together, if the more structure and order people can start to cultivate and recognize the value of creative cultivation and creative inspiration inside of themselves around their structured order, there's a creativity to building a business based around doing taxes. There's a creativity around creating a business around software or mechanical engineering. And yet there's also structure and order that goes to art. There's structure and order that comes to invention. One does not supersede the other. They work together. And so I want to ask you, what creatively inspires you? What is that? What are those things that you could do throughout the day, every day, repeatedly to create a habit of cultivating creativity? For me, sometimes I was working on a project today. I went and watched it was a commercial I was working on. And I watched a couple Super Bowl ads, in fact, just to understand kind of the flow, the energy of what the elite that create commercials do. And then I was able to fit that into what I was cultivating inside myself creatively, and then implemented it in a structure and order that took me about 2 to 3 hours. And now we have a plan of attack for a 2-minute sort of mini infomercial that we're launching, sort of a promotional piece for a client of mine. And that came from looking at 5 to 10 different commercials. Now, this piece that I was working on had nothing to do with those commercials. It wasn't inspired by the GoDaddy commercial. It wasn't inspired by the Doritos commercial. But what helped is it helped unlock. I was actually too worried about the structure and order of how everything was flowing. And so I watched some other people just to get the flow, just to understand the volume, just to understand the cadence of what people are used to and expecting to present this commercial in the way that people expect. And so when we can combine that, sometimes what cultivates creative energy in me is I'll go play video games. I will get my mind off of what I'm doing for an hour, and then I'll come back and I'll have a new thought, a new creative energy. I'll go play my piano, something like that. I'll go drive my car. For other people, it's different. For you, this is not one size fits all. But what creatively inspires you? What inspires you? Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's just not working. Maybe it's working hard creatively inspires you. And then pull out of you what wasn't out, come back later, take 5 minutes, shift, come back, and see what happens. Learn to cultivate creativity inside of yourself and be vulnerable enough to fail and to make mistakes and to possibly do things the wrong way of how you should do it, of how everybody says in the marketplace things should be done, to see an exponentially greater result in the end by cultivating creativity and inspiring yourself creatively, and then applying that to whatever market or industry you're in to then communicate with people and express yourself. Creativity, marketing, advertising, using creativity in that is creatively learning. How can I use language to speak the language of the one that I'm trying to reach and impart to them what I know and understand? So you're having to extract from your mind what you know to people that don't know anything about you and have you be on the same wavelength. That's what advertising is. And that comes from language, that comes from emotion, that comes from presentation, that comes from communication. And if you can get these things down and do so in a creative way and inspire yourself creatively and cultivate creativity, your results will be exponentially greater in the structure, in the strategy, in the order. And if you don't use structure, strategy, order, ways to support yourself in the creative process, support the creative process to be 10 times greater in its results with some time management, maybe giving yourself tight deadlines to have to cultivate thinking quicker. I see people, sometimes they'll take a week to do what should have taken an hour in the creative process because they had that 1 hour during that week. So learn to give yourself just an hour, maybe a deadline to come up with something creatively. These little tricks and tips will help you cultivate and generate creativity and inspire yourself to go further than you've ever been and grow your life. Have a good one, everybody, and we'll talk soon.